Hello and welcome to Potpourri. I'm Shatondra Caldwell, and today with us we have Miss Nikki Payne. How are you today?
I am great. How are you?
I'm good.
That's good.
So let's go ahead and jump into it. Let's talk about your backstory, because I know you're from Atlanta, and this is it's Atlanta. So let's.
Yes, I'm an Atlanta native. I love Atlanta.
Right.
It's a lot different now than when I was younger. I'm from the west side of Atlanta. And I went to Atlanta Public Schools. I graduated from Thorough High School. But I love Atlanta. I love the weather. I love that it's a potluck of people. I rarely meet people that live in Atlanta that's from Atlanta. But I just love the city.
Yeah, that's good. So recently there was an article written for Ebony. So can you get into that article for us just a little bit?
Sure. I had two children. I had a 2-year-old daughter named Jasmine. I had a 7-year-old son named Kevin. I was married, and my husband was my daughter's father, but he wasn't my son's father. And my husband actually was a great person. He was a provider. He never beat me. We had regular arguments, but nothing extreme, nothing like that. And on August the 20th of 2007, something just happened. And I believe that he maybe was bipolar. And he was a normal person at 6 o'clock, and at 7 o'clock, he just turned to a total stranger. And he shot and killed my 2-year-old daughter and my 7-year-old son, and then he shot himself. But for some reason, he let me live. So that's basically what the article was about. And after the death of my children and my husband, I went through this span of not knowing who I was. It went from one day you're a mother and you're a wife. The next day you don't know who you are, because all your titles are gone. And it's like, what do I do now? And right after they passed, I just went on this, let me see how to say it. I couldn't deal with being alone, because I didn't realize that silence was so loud. So I'm in a 5-bedroom house that was normally chaotic and cluttered and people running around, to now I'm in the same house and there's nothing, right? So then I was like, I got to do something. So then I said, okay, I can't stay here. I'm going to go party. I just went out and just did things so that I wouldn't be at home. I don't even like alcohol, but I would drink alcohol just because when I was drink, I couldn't think, because I didn't want to think. And then I would hang out with people. They weren't really my friends. They were just noise, if that makes sense. So I would do things like I would get tattoos, which I had tattoos before, but then I started getting giant tattoos. I started getting piercings, and it never really dawned on me until a lady said, do you know that every time your daughter's or your son's birthday comes up, you get a tattoo or a piercing? And I said, really? She said, why do you think you do that? And I said, I don't know, but the only thing I could think of is maybe I want to inflict pain on myself because that day is coming. It wasn't nothing that I said, well, hey, Tuesday's her birthday, let me go hurt myself. It was not, I guess it was subconsciously that I did it. And so that went on for about 3 or 4 years. Right after they died, the next 3 years was one big blur. It really was. And my mom, she called me one night, and she's like, oh, I just want to talk to you, and I love you. And I'm like, oh yeah, I love you too, and all that stuff. And I went over her house the next day. And so I go in her house, and she's laying in the bed, and she has my daughter's Dora doll and my son's Spider-Man in the bed with her. So I'm talking to her. So you want something to drink? She didn't answer. I go to the refrigerator, get something, put it back in there. I said, Mom, do you want such and such a? She didn't say nothing. I said, oh, she's being funny. So then I walk up to her and I touch her. and she's cold. And then I look at her, and then I realize, oh my God, my mom is dead. She died. But she grieved to death. Like, she grieved over my kids. Because once they left, only thing she would do was cry. She wouldn't go anywhere. She wouldn't go see her friends. She would just mourn the loss of them. And even after our autopsy, it was like natural causes. But I knew that that's what it was. So then at that point, it was, okay, Nikki, you can sit here and you can party, and you can drink, and you can self-destruct, and you can do all these things to yourself, and then you can end up dead. Or you can make the decision to live. So in a weird way, my mom dying helped me live. Because after she died, I embraced the silence. I embraced being alone. And although I can't say I'm a better person now because I would rather have my kids, I am better than I was before my mom died, if that makes sense. I'm not gonna cry on you.
It's okay, because I'm over here tearing up too. Yeah. But that's an amazing story, because I'm over here tearing up.
Oh, sorry.
So what are you doing now that you decided to live?
You know, every day is different.
Right.
Every day is just, I surprise myself. You know, one day I said, I'm going to try all the things I never tried. I'm going to eat food that I never thought I'd like. I still don't like sushi, but I tried it. I traveled.
Right.
I tried to date. That didn't work out too well. I enrolled in school. So I'm about to graduate to be an esthetician. Nothing I thought about doing, but I always did like skin. But what helped me was, now I talk about it. Because I see people, and what I like to say is sometimes you'll see people and you'll criticize them, but you never know what they went through. And so sometimes I talk to people and I say, well, you may be doing things to yourself, but you don't know the underlying problem. Like, I did things to myself. I didn't know why. But if you're going through something, some people cut their hair, some people change their clothing, some people do things, but you have to understand the underlying problem. And then I tell other people, don't judge people. Don't criticize them. You don't know what people have been through, you know? You don't know their storms. You just don't know. And then sometimes I talk to people just so that they can, they can appreciate what they have. I appreciate my mom more now that she's gone than when she was here. Because when my kids left, I've always had birthdays without my kids. I never had a birthday without my mom. So it was totally different. And it's things that I think back that I wish I would have done with my children and with my mom. So when I see people and they say, oh, my kids get on my nerves, I say, you know, I pray for what you're complaining about, and you should be happy for that. And sometimes they look at me like I'm crazy, and sometimes they'll sit back and they'll think, you know what, she's right. But if I tell 100 people that and 3 of them listen, I guess I did my job.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
I'm sorry, I'm a talker.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So, even like now, do you attend church? Have you gone closer to religion or ever?
After my kids died, I didn't want to go to church.
Right.
I didn't want to see a church. I wouldn't go by church chicken. Anything that said church, I wasn't going. Because I always have believed in God. But then it was like, God, how could you let that happen? And then it was, I know that I'm doing things that are wrong. I don't want to go to church because I know I'm doing things that are wrong. And then even when I decided to go to church, it was, I walked into church one day and the lady said, look at your arm. You need to cover up. She made me feel uncomfortable going to church because as I entered the church, I felt like I was judged. So it just made me not want to go to church. But then after my mom passed on a Friday. That Sunday I went to church. But I didn't go to church with the intention of, oh my God, I'm so in love with the Lord. I really went to church like, I am pissed. And I know that's bad to say, but I went to church like, I can't believe these people in here praying to God and these things keep happening. But that Sunday, it was a different church. It was a church I never went to. And the pastor said, sometimes you blame God for things that the devil did. And I didn't realize that. I've been mad at God for 4 or 5 years, and the devil did it. You know what I mean? So I go to church now. I can't quote no whole bunch of scriptures, and I can't tell you all the stories, but I know that God is in my heart. I know that God lives in me. I know that God saved me. I know I'm here for a purpose. I don't really know what that purpose is too much, but I think that when things happen to people, people tried to shove church on me. You should go to church. I had to find my way to church because it means more to me now that I get up and I voluntarily, I want to go to church versus my aunt wants me to go to church. I might as well go to church. So that's where I'm at with the church thing.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, we're going to have to take a break right quick, but when we come back, we'll have more with Miss Nikki Payne. Stay tuned.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad today. Call or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
Up to 40% of businesses never recover after experiencing a major disaster. Make a plan at ready.gov/business.
Crack don't
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
And welcome back, and we're still here with Miss Nikki Payne. She just told us her amazing story in our last segment, but my burning question is now, how did you get to forgiveness? Like, you said so many nice things about your ex-husband and all of that, but how did you get to that?
Well, my husband, he was a great person before this started. And he didn't drink, he didn't do drugs. So I knew that he had to be sick. And it's hard to hate a person when you know they're sick. People would say, he did that because he was mad at you, or his stepson, he was mad at his stepson. But I know he loved us. And I would get mad. But sometimes I would get mad because he let me live. Because when the events were happening, he was saying things like out of his head. And one thing he said was he was trying to save them. So I'm thinking, you don't want to save me too? Not that I wanted to die, but I just couldn't understand it. But I know the truth. And I get criticized more for not saying bad things about my husband than if I would say, oh yeah, he was a crazy man and he beat us and he did all of those things. But it's just not true. Now, I did get mad when the light bill came and it was high. I was getting mad because that was his responsibility. Or when I missed the kids, I would get mad. But the only person that was hurt was me, because I noticed that I would drink more when I thought like that. And it just wasn't true. So I loved him. I couldn't hate him like that. Yeah.
So how did you get the peace in your life? Because you're just so peaceful, so bright, so happy.
You know, I have good days and bad days. But honestly, A lot of my peace comes from my thinking. If I think negative, I'm going to have a negative day. So I can choose to say, you know, my husband killed my kids. I'm mad at everybody. I'm mad at every person with a child. I'm mad at every man. I'm mad at that. Or I can say, you know what? I got to have a daughter for 2 years. I got to have a son for 7 years. There's people out there that can't even have children. So it's how I choose to look at it. I can look at it like I have all of these negative things, or I can focus on the positive. And when I focus on the positive, every day, it may not be a great day, but something great's gonna happen every day.
Right.
So that's kind of how I get my peace. And then when I feel like I'm just going down, I think about my mom. And sometimes you have to let people be your anti-role model, because I don't want to grieve to death. So I hate that happened to her. But sometimes I feel like because of that, I won't be like that. So I kind of direct my thoughts into that, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So when you say anti-role model, can you explain that?
Yes. It's like you can see a person that's on drugs, and you can say, I don't want to be like that person. So that's my anti-role model. I don't want to be like that person. So sometimes if I see people that drink a lot, they're in really bad relationships because of relationships that they were in before, you know, I look at those people and say, I don't want to be like them. You know, my mom, she stopped living after my kids died. And she died, she was lonely. So I look at that and say, I don't want to be like that. You know, so that's my anti-role model. I think I made that up.
Yeah. So, well, let's stick on role models. Who's your role model today?
You know, it would not be a big name person.
Right.
It would be normal, everyday person. If I see a girl at the bus stop with 2 children and it's raining and she got an umbrella and she got on her McDonald's uniform, but she got to drop her kids off and go to that $7 job, that's my role model, because she gets up and she does what she has to do. And it's not necessarily the little thing that she does, it's just that she's determined to do it. And so I look at normal, everyday people. You know, it's easy to look at big name people and you don't exactly know how they got there. I think I like to see people in transition to where they're going, you know. So I like the person that's making their way through college. They're struggling, you know. They don't have a nice car, they don't have all of these things, but they're trying. So sometimes I say, oh my goodness, I don't want to take this test. But then I look at this girl over here that got this big load of homework to do, and I'm complaining about 1 chapter. So that's my role model, you know.
Right.
So it's people like that.
Wow. So let's get back to your story. How did Ebony find out about your story? How did it get into the magazine?
You know, I am a talker. and sometimes I just write. So I had a dream, and my dream was about my mom. And I woke up and I was crying. So everything I thought, I just wrote it. I just wrote it. And then once I wrote it down, it was an Ebony magazine next to my bed. So I looked at it. I looked at the address, and I just put it in an envelope, and I sealed it, and I sent it off. Didn't think nothing about it.
Right.
Like 6 or 7 months later, they started emailing me and calling me. It was the strangest thing. I never really thought that it would be published or anything like that. But I think that it was meant to be. That's what I think.
Right, and I'm sure you were excited when you saw it.
You know, actually, I was scared.
Really?
Because sometimes you wish for things, and then when you get it, it's not exactly what you thought. Because when that article came out, I got a whole bunch of criticism after that. A lot of people feel sad, but then a lot of people get mad. She's not mad at her husband. She didn't say nothing bad about her husband. She seemed to be doing fine. How can you be fine and your kids died? You must did it. I'm serious. That's how people would be. How can you be so happy? I got criticized for living. I got criticized for being happy. I got criticized for wearing red lipstick. How can you wear red lipstick and your kids die? So when that article came out, I got different views and different things. But, you know, it's okay. It was all right. So when I actually saw it in the magazine, I first had fear. And I don't even know exactly why that first instance I had that fear. But then I kind of got relief. But then all the criticism came in. But it's okay.
And how did you deal with that criticism, though? You just kind of...
I choose what I want to listen to. I mean, I can listen to the 100 people, the 99 people that loved it, or I can listen to that one person that got something smart to say. And if I focus on the 99, then that one doesn't bother me. So it doesn't matter.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's make it a little fun. What about dating life now? Are you dating? Well, I don't know.
Well, you know, I tried to date. It didn't work out. I think I dated great people, but I think that I was not at the point where A, I knew exactly what I wanted, or B, I was there for the right reasons. Sometimes you'll be with people and it's just because you don't want to be by yourself. And so you overlook certain things just because you don't want to be lonely. Or sometimes you'll accept things from people just because you don't want to be by yourself. So although they were great people, I think they were not great for me. And maybe I wasn't the greatest person for them. So the more I focus on myself and get myself together, I'm sure that I will attract the person that I'm supposed to be with. But until then, it's all right. Yeah, it's all right.
So is there any lasting words that you want to say?
Again, I would say life is filled with terrible thunderstorms and bright days. And again, it's what you choose to focus on. If you choose to focus on the good, you'll have better days. And if you choose to focus on the positive in people, then you'll be a better person. So I guess that's all I have to say.
Okay. And you say that do you have like a blog or, Instagram or Facebook that you write?
I have a Instagram. It's Nikki's Payne. It's NIKKIS_PAYNE. And my website is www.nickie'spayne.com.
And do you write on your website, like with the blogging and?
I'm gonna start.
Yeah, I think you should. I think you got a lot
think
to say.
so?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
blogging is big, especially with your story. You can, keep it going.
Well, I'm gonna start that this week. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
So definitely. Well, thank you for joining us today, Miss Nikki Payne. You had an amazing story, and thank you for sharing your story, because that's hard. I don't know if I could be able to share my story and let people know and still smile about it and have such a bright personality. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that was Potpourri. Please join us next time.